Ilona Lindholm, and I'm from Mindfield Games, and Mindfield Games is a Helsinki-based studio that is focused on virtual reality gaming. I'm a co-founder. There are 5 co-founders in the company and 1 employee right now. So we're a pretty small company, which enables us to experiment with lots of cool technological things within virtual reality platform as well.
And today you're showing Pollen, which is your new game. And
yes.
Just remind me, is it purely focused on virtual reality, or is it going to be a virtual reality and a non-virtual reality game as well, or is it purely VR?
It is optimized for Oculus Rift, but it's fully playable and fully enjoyable with a traditional monitor as well, so it works for all.
Okay, so give us a brief introduction to Pollen. What's it about? What's the idea behind it? And what are you trying to do with the game?
It is a first-person exploration adventure, and what we're trying to do is create a meaningful adventure that people really kind of get immersed into. We have story elements, we have individual stories of these characters that we have in the game, and then we also have a higher level story that ties into the thematic of the whole game. That we also, you can find hints to the thematic from our teaser trailer.
Okay. So, if you had to, at the moment, in terms of the game's tone and what you're aiming for in terms of the content, could you give us an example of something that it's like, or is it fairly unique?
Yes, we're heavily inspired by films, actually. We're trying to go for a cinematic experience for the players. We're heavily inspired by games such as Gone Home and other first-person adventure games like it. And from film industry, we're inspired by Stanley Kubrick's films like 2001: Space Odyssey, and Solaris is a big influence on us. So that's kind of the mood board for the game.
So do you have an outline for what the story is? What kind of, or do you not want to give too much away? I mean, I guess I know that the game is based on Titan, for example. But can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
I don't want to give the story away, but it is a story about researchers on a research station based on Titan, the moon of Saturn, and they have discovered something that they cannot tell what it is. And
yeah, it's because mystery is like a large part of the story. It's like you are searching yourself for the answers. What is this game about? What is the story? What am I experiencing? What is happening here? Why am I here? All of that kind of stuff. So that is what the game is about. So if we tell the story, we pretty much spoil the whole game at that point.
Okay. I'm not asking any more questions. Would you say that the overall tone? Would you say that it's horror toned, or is it more thriller, or are you just going for a general immersion and mystery?
Okay, it is not a horror game. That much we can say.
Okay, fair enough.
With certainty, it is not a horror game.
Except for the cat that's in the cabin boat. Yeah. But no, really, it's in the same way. It's not horror. It's like 2001. It's not horror. What happens on that ship? The same.
Claustrophobic suspense.
Yeah. Well, when you are inside like this huge station that has been dug deep underground on Titan, researching something that was really worth all this effort and work. It's sort of, especially if the power goes out, but may happen eventually at some point.
So I mean, in terms of the way that the game looks, I mean, it's based on Unity, which I have to admit I was surprised by because it looks so good. I mean, and I'm nothing against Unity per se, but you find that Unity games would normally look a little bit more basic. This really looks fantastic. And can you talk a little bit about the art design and what the kind of feel and look you kind of go for, and your methodologies?
Yeah, well, we settled with a very strong style for the world. The game is set in this alternative universe where...
Not spinning everything. Oh, okay. I'm the producer, I'm just saying like... But yeah.
Well, we have this very coherent art style through the game where things kind of... We lend from past decades but stay quite strict to... So, with every object, every object has to go through this process of getting approved to the game so that it matches the rest of the game style. and we're quite proud of the art direction right now. And also we use a lot of like custom shaders, and our lighting system, we use physically based rendering system for Unity right now, which allows us to use, makes the game look a lot more realistic, a lot more cool.
And then from there to the visual aspects of the world, and then to interacting with the world. I mean, one of the biggest problems in virtual reality is that you kind of have to rethink the way that you allow people to access the world. And how have you approached that in terms of your methodology, and how you've gone about thinking about how people are going to do stuff in the world?
After you get like over the first edge of virtual reality development, because nobody has ever done virtual reality games, it's like you just start to imagine how you really, in the real life, action and interact with things, and pretty much just copy that and do it in VR. It works awesomely well. Like in fact, if you are walking on the floor, how does your head move? What is the action there? How do you draw out a drawer? What you can pick out there? How your hands separate? Everything is like thought through this lens. So to combine the idea of what we do with objects in the game, it's like every object that you find in the game should work exactly as the object works in the real world. So if there is toilet paper in the world, yeah.
So we go to great lengths trying to anticipate how the players play the game, what they expect. So we want that everything in the game world is interactive in the way that players expect it to be. So we don't want no doors that don't open, for example. That's like an exaggeration, but that's definitely the question. So,
I mean, in terms of the kind of the gameplay elements, and I don't really want to necessarily focus on this because virtual reality games can quite often be just experiences that you can go through and have a great time. But I think you are going for it is a game basically, in the sense that you play things and there is an objective and you do things. What kind of elements are you putting in the world to give that sort of sense of progression and challenge?
Well, one thing that Gone Home, which is pretty much something that we want to do. We want to do something like Gone Home in space.
You're a big fan of Gone Home.
Yes, I love the game. I think it's ingenious in a sense. The thing that Gone Home was criticized was that it's a walking simulator. That only thing that you do, you just enter the house and you go around and you go to the kitchen, you go to the bathroom. I don't think it causes a bad game. In fact, in VR it would be like totally fun, but we want to add more to it. We just didn't want to copy the game and put a theme in it and say it's like Gone Home and space. But to put some gameplay to it. So what our game is much about is about life. That's like you saw in the trailer. There are bees, there's flowers, which can be combined into some like idea what could happen there. And well, what enables life in space? Well, machines. So machines can be used for gameplay elements. That's what we are using a lot.
So in short, yes, we do have puzzles, but all the puzzles are tightly tied into the narrative of the game. So when you encounter something that blocks you from advancing, the solution to advancing, it is a puzzle that you have to figure out, but it's also very much thematically connected to the storyline. It advances the storyline as well.
So I mean, you would say that basically, if you're going for a narrative, essentially the central core of your game is the narrative. You're telling a story in VR, basically.
Yes.
I mean, you obviously can't talk too much about the story, as we've just seen there. Would you say that it was pure sci-fi? Would you say it's sci-fi fantasy? Would you say, I mean, what kind of? You said you were influenced by 2001, which is pure science, really. And then you have you were talking about Solaris, which has kind of like spooky elements to it.
Yeah, I would say that it's more than more than science fiction. It's mystery. Yeah. So it actually, the science fiction setting is like it doesn't have to be in space. It just happens to be that it fits our narrative and our goals, that it's located where it is. Okay. But the story is mystery.
Originally, when we began, I was trying to get the team to think that we go 99% like science and 1% of fiction and fantasy. Okay. I think now we are about 95% of science. So, yeah, but it was when the world starts to lead itself. Like you start to notice that all these things start to come together. It wasn't originally that we had bees in the world, for example. It's not the first thing that comes in mind when you are creating a science fiction world set on Titan. So it pretty much like grew into itself. Yeah. When we put the people inside the base and started to think that what would they have done there? How would they have interacted? What would their connections be? What would they have done with each other? eventually down the road we got this large hydroponics area as the heart of the base.
That's where the demo.
Yes.
I mean, from a technical point of view, have you found it challenging to integrate? I think you had VR in mind from the beginning, so I guess there's an element that you had a bit of an advantage there. But in terms of getting VR working and making it feel right, you were talking about the scale of the world, for example. I mean, what challenges have you come across? If you think of the biggest challenges you've had getting the game into VR, what would that be, do you think?
Oh, there are many. There's many.
The biggest thing has, or the most notable obstacle has been motion sickness, I believe. There are several people who cannot wear a VR headset more than 1 or 2 minutes.
And walk around.
Yeah. They have to take it off. And
Is that improved with DK2 at all? You've only had it a little while, I know.
Yeah, we have had DK2 for a while. It helps. It helps a lot when you can move your head on sideways and you start to notice that, okay, it moves more naturally for me. The better resolution works also, getting the frame rate correctly works also, but there is always the small element that my feet are not moving. I really want my Virtuix Omni faster.
Talk to the virtualizer guys, the Cybereth virtualizer and the Virtuix Omni guys.
No, Virtuix Omni we are on the Kickstarter, we are paying for it. Virtualizer we are on the Kickstarter, we are paying for it. So I want to see those. But overall, what we are doing is a virtual reality optimized game. So it's going to be a PC game that is strongly from the day one. When we were starting to think how it's going to be done, it was thought as an Oculus game. But first priority for us is to do a PC game that really rocks.
So when can we expect Pollen coming out? Have you guys got any release dates in mind? Are you shooting for anything in particular?
Our frame is in 2015.
Okay.
It's when Oculus comes out, we will...
Oh, okay, so basically you're tying yourselves to the consumer Rift version release?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
We
so
could probably go for, say, early access this year. And that is something we've been thinking and we've been debating, but when you are doing an exploration game, a story-based game, releasing it half done is...
you can't just have a halfway narrative because people are going to be banging down your door saying, what the hell happens next? I have no idea.
Exactly. So that's a bit of an issue. Of course, there would be the fun thing to give people who have the DK2s, like, okay, here's a really awesome-looking demo for you guys to play around and test and give feedback to us.
I mean, there's something that the Oculus have outlined and highlighted quite a lot is that we don't know. VR is so new, we don't know anything. We know this much. We've come this far in 2 years, but we don't know anything, and new developers have to come back. So I'm wondering how important actually early access and community feedback is to VR games, because by definition, you guys don't know. I mean, it's probably your first VR game,
Yes.
Exactly, yeah. And for most people, that's the case. So, do you think
It's my second VR game.
Sorry.
I've done one, but that was a game jam.
Okay. So, I mean, do you think that user interaction and feedback is going to be important going forward? I mean, are you going to have a beta? You said that's maybe on the cards.
At the moment, we are having game testers every week. That's why we know about all these motion sickness issues.
Okay.
For example, because we are developers, we are using the thing daily. We have grown up to it. We can like...
You have your VR legs.
Yeah, I have a bit of cold sweat going down, but it's okay. But when we have like new players testing the device, we want them to feel okay in it, that they enjoy the experience. So yeah, we have game testers all the time, and let's see when PAX East happens or other venues, maybe we have stands there.
And of course, the general community is really important, and finding out feedback of the general practices that work and that don't work.
I freaking love the VR community because that people are giving out demos and testing things. You can get immediate feedback from them and see like, okay, those things work, those things don't work. This is something that people complain a lot. So that helps us around it very much.
You could never accuse the VR community of not being honest and open about their criticism.
They have, in fact, sometimes I think that VR community is even too nice. It's like it's a really nice like a family of developers.
I think now at the moment it's small enough to still be nice. I think when it gets bigger,
we're still in a honeymoon mode. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the rest of Gamescom. And look forward to seeing Pollen in 2015.
Excellent.